Welcome to the REI Foundation Podcast, where we cover all the steps and strategies to make your real estate dreams a reality. Now your hosts, Jason and Peely.
Hi, everyone, and welcome again to the Real Estate Investing Foundation with Jason and Peely. Today, we have all the way from Shanghai, China, Chris and Lauren Cranford. Welcome, Chris. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. So yes, we're actually on nighttime here in New Jersey and morning time in Shanghai. So we really appreciate you guys getting up so early to be on the show. And a little background about Chris and Lauren. They were both born and raised in Texas. Chris is from Spur and Lauren from Austin. And they both graduated from Texas Tech University and basically lived in Texas until 2015 when they decided to accept an adventure and move across the world to Shanghai, China for Chris's corporate role with a major hotel chain. And even though Chris and Lauren currently live so far away, Lubbock still holds a special place in their heart, and their amazing team in the market has enabled them to purchase real estate investments all the way from China, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So Chris and Lauren, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being on with us. And well, let's just dive right in. You talk about investing from afar. Well, how did you first jump into real estate investing?
So we first decided that we wanted to look for a way to plan for our future, and naturally real estate was the avenue that we chose based on my background in commercial real estate and Chris's background with his work. So once we were pretty clear on that, we just dove into self-educating and just tried to learn as much as we could. And then from there, we decided on a market. And once we decided on the market and had what we felt all of our ducks in a row, we just kind of went running with it and asked our team to start bringing us deals. And it just started from there and has really gone fast since. We haven't looked back.
So we know you guys, so we know there's a little bit more to the story. We know how we'll say strategic Chris and yourself are. And I believe, Chris, you actually went through a program where you dived into every different type of investment and you kept coming back to real estate. Would you give us a little more guidance on what really stood out about real estate compared to other investments?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got to admit, I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to personal finance.
Nice.
And so I actually found an online course that talked about all the different vehicles for investments. And it actually compared everything out. And, really, whenever you kind of weighed everything out, real estate really did stand out as the one thing that could really generate passive income quickly. And so, given Lauren's background and my background, it just seemed like it was the obvious choice to jump into. So then shortly after that, I took that course. I think I read more than 20 different books about real estate. And it really kind of turned into a fun hobby. And things just really kind of took off from there.
We had zero life outside of work. We were just every time we had free moments on the weekend or in the evenings, we truly were just all in. So we went a bit extreme, but it got us to where we are today. So
that is awesome to hear, going all in from the very beginning.
And what was the moment where you guys took that first action to go after a property? And do you remember what that first property was?
Yeah, so we actually, one thing that I will say, we did treat it like a business from day one. And you guys know our personality. And so we created a true business plan before we got started. And what we did is we sent that out to kind of our inner circle of people. And that was, friends, family, bankers, our CPA, attorney. And we just said, hey guys, here's where we're at. Here's where we want to be. Here's our goals. If you have any advice, any input, we would love to hear what you have to say. If you have any contacts that you know of that you'd be willing to put us in touch with, we would be grateful for that as well. So that's kind of how we started. And then Lubbock was the obvious choice for us because we already had relationships there, good, solid ones, people that we trusted and who happened to be great in the business as well. And we also loved the market. So once we kind of sent them our criteria, which was in our business plan, then that's when they started sending us houses. And our first house was, it's crazy how the market changes so fast, but so this was in December of 2016 is when we closed, and it was, purchase price was $93,000. We put $12,000 into it, and it rented for $1,250 a month. So it was a great experience, and is still a really great little house for us.
So let's talk a little bit about that. And I guess in terms of your criteria, what was the criteria you were sending out? And before we even jump on that, you're sending out all these letters to basically your network. What kind of response was that generating?
So it was good. I mean, everyone that we knew, like I said, it was our inner circle. So we know these people personally and through, work relationships as well. But for the most part, well, no, everybody had great positive response. And in fact, that's how we learned. So one of our contacts was the head of the trust department of a bank. And we had a relationship with him through some other business, non-real estate related. And come to find out, him and his wife owned 12 rental homes in Lubbock. And we didn't even know that at the time. So that was huge. And then a couple others as well, they were longtime Lubbock contacts who, whether it was them or family or friends, they had actually quite a bit of knowledge about the real estate investment industry. So we were pleasantly surprised with the responses that we got and just the quick connections that led to.
Sure. And in terms of your criteria, Chris, what was the criteria that you guys were targeting for your investment properties, and how did you hone in on that criteria?
Yeah, so we went back and studied up and read a lot of books about, what the criteria should be. And so when we started out, I think we were looking for a 12% cash on cash return, three bedroom, 2 bath. And really kind of learned through all the self-education about how to underwrite all of those deals. And so I think the first one that we got fell in just below that. But since then we've seen the cash on cash returns come down a little bit, but the first one was really an incredible deal.
The second one too, the second buy was a duplex, and those numbers looked great. So like Chris said, it was a minimum of $200 a month in cash flow and 12% cash on cash return. And we had a general purchase price range. However, as I said, like with the second one, we didn't want to, I think we had said around 100,000, but we didn't want to limit ourselves as well. If say a duplex or a fourplex came along and the numbers worked, we didn't want to rule that out. So we focused more on the returns rather than the purchase price.
This is all amazing, amazing advice. You guys started off your business with a business plan, went to your sphere of influence, and knew exactly what you wanted and targeted that market with specific details as to what you wanted. Everybody that's listening out there, you need to follow that strategy. I mean, that's amazing advice for anybody that's beginning.
And let's show the reward of that structure. So let's fast forward now
Exactly.
some 18 months. And what does your current business model look like in your portfolio?
So we currently have 8 homes under our belt, and we purchased those all within 11 months. And then currently, as you guys know, we're under contract and closing in 2 weeks on a 21 unit portfolio. And just to kind of go back to how important your people are, that deal came to us originally as a 92 house portfolio off market. And it was from us, our property manager, who we check in with often. But it kind of shows the importance of communication, always, telling people what you want and what your goals are. We had literally had our kind of weekly call with him, and said, all right, here's our new goals. Here's what we want. And no joke, the next day he calls us up and he says, hey guys, what about a 92 portfolio? Is that too big? So we were like, you've got to be kidding. So yeah, just visualizing what you want. And it's really amazing how that really does work, as corny as that might sound. But
yeah, communication throughout this whole thing has really been key. And our property manager, just to go back a couple of steps, whenever we sent out our original business plan, he wasn't a property manager. He worked at a bank, actually, and he found that real estate was really his passion. And then just since the time we had sent that out, he had peeled off and then started his own property management company, and it's been absolutely fantastic. So had we not actually sent that letter out to him and business plan of what we were wanting to do, we would have never known that he even had in his mind that he wanted to be a property manager.
mm-hmm.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So he had a client, or he has a client that had this portfolio and had kind of, crossed it past him that, hey, I think we might be ready to sell the whole portfolio or part of it. And so that's how the conversation started. And then we ended up scaling it back to an amount that we were comfortable with buying on our own. But who knows, we in the future are getting more and more comfortable with the idea of using other people's money and putting together some type of partnership. So we'll see.
And all this from China. So let's talk about that. So there's a lot of fear for investing in another state, let alone halfway across the world. So how have you been so successful setting up your team? What have been some of the key components you've focused on?
So I think, for us, we kind of learned the hard way with property management. We owned a house in Plano, Texas before moving out here, and everything happened really fast when we were moving. And so, in fact, Chris moved out here a month before me and my son did. So we ended up going with a property manager that just had the lowest rates, met him in person quickly one time, felt okay about it. And that just turned out to be a wreck, really. We ended up spending a whole lot more money in the end than what had we had a good management company running it than we would have. So in Lubbock, we really, really focused and put a lot of, we just communicated a lot and set our expectations and communicated those. And so that was the first key, was finding the best property manager. And then came the agents, obviously, and making sure the manager had a good team of, the contractors and trades and all that on the ground. And then also, aside from the agents and the managers, I've reached out to wholesalers, other contacts that might have ways to come across off-market deals. So I think it really just all goes back to communication. And yes, we're across the world. And so there, right now there's a 13-hour time difference between here and Texas. And so that does, bring some challenges. However, other than that, it's really no different than no matter where you are. Even if we lived in Lubbock, I think the communication is just as important.
So as a learning lesson, what are some questions that you ask today to a property management company?
So do you want to chime in? I think just some basic ones are, how do you communicate with your clients? How often? What type of information do you send? How many homes are you managing? How many people are on your team, and who are they? What do they do? When a call comes in at 2 a.m, how is that handled? How is an emergency situation handled?
They can call you at 2 a.m, right? Because it's 2 p.m. your time, so it's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want to hand those off? No. I don't want to be taking any calls.
Exactly.
And another one too is, so when you take over a property and when you turn it over, discuss in detail, what does that look like? And I think one big thing that if people aren't doing it now that I think I would highly suggest is videos, and, you know, to do a walkthrough video. And I think that that really helps us as owners, especially being so far away and not able to go look for ourselves. But okay, what does the house look like now as we're turning it over to the new tenant? And then when they move out, take one more video. And that also alleviates any chance for, you know, disruption between the tenant and the manager upon move out. So I think that's a really good thing to do.
Screening tenants.
Yeah. And then just that's a huge question, is what's your screening process, and just making sure that's very thorough.
All amazing information. So looking forward, what significant impact is your business dealing with right now? Growing your team, finding more leads, and how could your business be better moving forward?
Well, I think this last deal that we're working on, actually, both Lauren and I never thought would be possible, just from a mindset perspective.
That mindset, it'll get you.
Yeah. So, you know, just a portfolio this big, you know, we've obviously never gone after a loan this big. And you know what? After we actually started talking to the bank, in a lot of ways, getting this loan was a lot easier than just a mortgage.
Why is that?
Blows my mind.
Well, for our listeners out there, why do you think it's actually easier for you to get this larger loan for multiple homes than it is to just get a simple home mortgage?
Well, when we're applying for the mortgages, I mean, there's just so much paperwork and detail that you've got to get across. And, you know, I mean, everything, paper trails on different transactions that have taken place. And I absolutely hate that part of the process of real estate. It's something I'm working on. But, you know, actually, once we started work on this portfolio deal, we have a really great relationship with our bank, and, you know, they know who we are. We talk to them on a regular basis. And it was literally, you know, us putting together our financial statements, sending across our bios, and, you know, just staying in touch with them. And, you know, they got the loan to go through. So, you know, there just wasn't near the amount of scrutiny and paperwork that went into it if you have a great relationship with the bank.
And two, to add to the great relationship, I think a big thing from their end is just that it's an in-house loan versus not being. So whenever you start getting into in-house loans, they have a lot more flexibility as a bank and a team and a committee. So I think that also was a huge part of it as well.
That's great. And so looking at what you've done so far in this last 18 months, where do you see your business growing in the next 5 years?
So I think that we'll keep doing what we're doing. And, you know, like you guys, we have a lot of contacts in the field that, you know, joke with us about, come on, residential, you know, time to move on up to the big league to get into multifamily or apartments or whatnot. So we have actually personally invested in a apartment syndication deal just to kind of learn the ropes, get familiar with the process, get familiar with the structure. But for us, we really like the residential, and we're going to stick to that for now. But we completely see ourselves, you know, when another 90 house portfolio comes along, putting together a structure, we feel a lot more comfortable with it now. And, you know, the structure really wouldn't be much different than an apartment syndication. And so, yeah, I think that we see ourselves just keep doing what we're doing, but just on a larger scale.
Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about that big word, mindset. You're a lot like us. You are a husband and wife team. You're partners in crime. And we get this question a lot. So I'm going to ask you this question. How do you do it? How do you work together? And you have a beautiful child. How do you find the time for family, find the time for partnership, and find the time for yourselves as a team?
Okay, so it takes a lot of work, to be honest. And we can go back to time blocking is a huge thing where, like you guys have taught us, starting with the most important things in your life, which is family, friends, and just getting those in the calendar to where you're not going to skip over those things to get, to do immediate things that come up, or what we might in the past have thought, no, we got to get this done. It's an emergency or it's really important. But, I think whenever you keep in your mind what really truly means the most to you in life, then that's where you'll start making your daily decisions on, what is most important and putting in that time. So us working as a couple with real estate, we really bring to the table different things. So that's just been really helpful. Chris, like he said, is a spreadsheet numbers guy. And I'm I call myself a doer. I'm more task oriented, but also relationship oriented. And I love talking with people, keeping in touch with people, just keeping everything organized. And so I feel like we both bring different strengths. And then once again, it goes back to communication, right?
Yep.
Just us checking in with each other. I mean, Chris has a more than full-time job, and he travels a lot. And it's just keeping communicating, just like you would a business partner, except we're husband-wife.
To build on Lauren's points, we really complement each other really well from a skill set perspective. I don't have a lot of time at all. And so, when it comes to just underwriting a deal on the weekends or analyzing stuff, I certainly jump in and help. But Lauren is a great networker and communicator. And then I do have to throw a special shout out to Trevor McGregor. He's our real estate coach. And he's constantly kind of pushing us from behind. And I remember when we had first kind of brought him on, I think it was our goal to get to 3 homes that year. And then we signed him up, and then we ended up at 8.
Trevor is amazing.
Yep. And if you remember, Trevor, we're back on episode 100 and I believe episode 2.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So,
He is also our personal coach.
Yes.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah, he really helped us just anytime that, because let's be honest, you do go through times where, or we did at least, where we went through a couple of months of feeling like we were in a rut and not knowing how to move forward, how to get the momentum going again. And so he's really been there to just push us through those challenges, let us see things in a light that we might not have come up with on our own. And just keep us motivated and scale faster, like Chris said, for sure.
Having a great mentor and a great coach in your arena, in your side of the court, it makes all the difference.
It's a game changer. So we have 2 more questions for you, and we'll let you go. And again, thank you for getting up on the brink of dawn. If there was steps that you could give to a new real estate investor today that's looking to just get started, what would be some piece of advice you would give them to really just take down their real estate journey?
Okay. I think in a broad sense, I think first is tackle the mindset piece and, educate yourself, dive into, there's so much free education out there, whether it's, books, podcasts, websites, Investopedia, jump on there and just start reading words and learning the lingo, understanding the business. And then I think once you get past the mindset of believing, because it's true, everyone is capable of doing this. Everyone has what it takes. They have it in them. So once you believe that, then just focusing on, okay, what area of real estate? There's in the beginning, for me, that was quite overwhelming because coming from commercial background and then learning all about residential, okay, do we want to be flippers? Well, that didn't really make sense for us being in China. Do we want to, there's so many different routes. So I think deciding on what's going to be for you and sticking to that. And then, just start networking and putting yourself out there, start talking, just telling people what you want. And the more and more that you talk and, even put yourself in uncomfortable situations, then things just start coming your way. So, and then the second piece would just be doing the more, I guess, tactical work of it, right?
Yeah. I would add one more piece, and that's, ask yourself why you're actually doing it.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Because, and you've got to stay committed to that reason of why you're actually growing a real estate portfolio, because inevitably you will run into roadblocks, and the people that are successful smash through those roadblocks because they're committed to their why, and they have a deeper sense of purpose of why they're doing what they're doing. And so, really understand why it is that you want to move forward with real estate. It's key.
I was going to say, I know Jason only said 2 more questions, but what is your why?
Well, I think in the long term, for us, it's just being able to have the financial freedom between the two of us to really kind of pick up and do whatever we want. I really, really love my job today, and obviously feel very fortunate to be in the position that we are. And it's completely, I want it to be completely my choice of whether or not I continue working or not. And so, if it's the same 10 years from now with my job, then, so be it. And if I ever reach a point where I'm not happy, it'd be nice to just be able to step away.
Yeah. And I think too, we both are passionate about people. So on top of us reaching our, financial freedom, I think also we have really enjoyed being able to share our journey and just in order to help others to get to where they want to be and meet their goals too. So that's another piece of our big why, is to give back in that way. And if I can add one more thing too about what Chris said, because he brought up a good point about focusing on your big goal and remembering your why. Whenever you do that, what we've kind of learned is that it really does help you make those daily decisions and create habits that you'll end up just naturally doing that are based on your long-term goals. And so I think in today's world, especially for, our generation, I think that sometimes we can focus so much on just the short term. And I think that really kind of kills your, or not kills, but it gets us in trouble to being able to achieve the greater priority and what's truly important to us, because we are such a immediate give it to me now type, so I think that's a good point too to mention.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey. If there are other people that want to share their journey with you or would like more information about your journey, what's the best way for others to contact you?
Sure. So we would love to hear from anyone, and our email is the best way to get in touch with us, and it's Cranfordpropertiesllc@gmail.com. And Cranford is CRANF as in Frank, ORD.
Awesome. Well, this has been absolutely incredible, Chris and Lauren. Thank you so very much. Enjoy your day there in China. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So this is the Real Estate Investing Foundation with Jason and Peely. Thank you again to Lauren and Chris for coming on, and so grateful for everyone out there who's been listening. Thank you so very much. Have a great day. Bye now.
Thanks for tuning into the REI Foundation podcast. Check back next time for more awesome tips and strategies to launch your new you in real estate.